Hello there, and welcome. My name is Calliope, and as I understand it, we are doing a bespoke bodywork treatment for you. Is that correct? Excellent. So I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the treatment before we get situated. The definition is going to be quite different for each person, and it's actually going to be quite different for the same person if they were to get multiple treatments. The idea of bespoke bodywork is that we are not using just one philosophy, one set of moves, but we are pulling from all different types. And a lot of bodywork methodologies have kind of evolved from people learning one type, picking a few things from another type, maybe something from something different, and blending it all together. And this works quite similarly to that, except we have no limit on what we can pull from. It's just whatever we feel your body needs, your body is asking for at the time of treatment. So let's get you situated. I'm going to grab a drape real quick. And from this point forward, I am going to need to be touching you for the treatment. Is that okay with you? Have your consent to do that? Wonderful. Let me get this undone. And the nice thing about our bespoke treatment is that you do not have to dress down at all, and we work with whatever clothing you have. We can work with any type of restriction since we can pull from whatever bodywork we want. It's a very comfortable type of work. Go. And how is that? Okay, good. This is just more for warmth. So if at any point it feels a little too warm or stifling at all, just let me know and we can adjust that however you need it. Now, as I have you here, are you comfortable? Does everything feel like it is supported? Do you feel like you need any extra support anywhere? For example, I have a pillow here that we could put under the knees. Some people like it more under the ankles. That's just fine. If at any point you do want a little extra support, just let me know. It's a super easy thing to change. Now, we're going to get you nice and relaxed. Since we have you situated here, I just want to run through some of our heavy hitters in terms of places that can unintentionally cause us a lot of stress. For example, the jaw is a big one. Right in here. Right there. So, is there any way that we can relax the jaw a little further? Maybe get some space in between the teeth here. Can we maybe relax the tongue down? Is that more comfortable than letting it rest on the roof of our mouth? For some people, it is more comfortable to rest on the roof of the mouth. We just want to get a little bit of space in between the teeth and let the temporomandibular joint here relax so that it's not engaged and locked, or even worse, clenched up, tensed up. Okay, and what about the forehead? Is there any part of the forehead here that is scrunched up, that is tight, and can we relax that at all? The same goes for the eyes. Are they relaxed? Can we allow them to sink back into the backs of our eyes? And even the shoulders here. I'm going to press down on the shoulders, and we're going to make some space away from the ears here, that they're not hitched up but instead pulled down. Just going to press down, and then maybe we give them a little roll back. See if that opens up the chest a little bit more. Roll the shoulders back, pull the shoulder blades together a bit. See how that feels. And are there any other areas of tension that you're holding in the body that we can work with? Is it maybe in the arms? Are we seeing that in the chest? The abdomen here, the legs, the calf muscles maybe, the feet. Just take a little scan and see if there's any area that needs a little bit more relaxation, even if it's just 1% more relaxed. And then we can begin. So with Bespoke Bodywork, we can start literally anywhere. Sometimes I might start with the face here. Sometimes I might start at the heart center. Sometimes we start at the abdomen, the feet. But today with you, I think that I would like to start in with the thighs here, and we can begin with a little bit of work. I'm just going to move your arms and allow your body to go as limp as you can. Some people want to try to help a little bit while I'm moving you around, but I will move you however I need you to be. You do not need to do anything but relax. So I'm just assessing right now, feeling the muscles, the density of the limb, the weight of it. I think the thighs are a good place to start because this is such a a strong place in the body, it can take a lot of pressure, and we can test the limits a little bit to see how far we can go before we're not therapeutic anymore. Just doing a little bit of pressure in here. The concept of bespoke bodywork is not exactly recent, but the name that I've coined here is more so recent. But as I said before, most bodywork is a blend. It didn't appear in a vacuum. Take some from the side here and give some squeezing. So the concept is quite familiar, but it just has that sort of freedom to it. That being said, a lot of the work that we do happens to come down to a few core principles. And very colloquially, the other practitioners and I sometimes call it pressure and movement, because that tends to be a lot of what we do. So, applying some pressure and getting just little bits of movement in there, whether it's some traction, whether it's massaging a bit to try to open up the tissues and the fascia. Or if it is solely for relaxation. This kind of bodywork does seek to address some imbalances, but a lot of it is about relaxation. Because when we have stress in the body, it can cause so many issues, sometimes even beyond just a structural imbalance, which can be rather harmful on its own. Just doing these little cross friction movements around the knee. So a lot of what we try to do is promote not only relaxation, but a deep-seated sense of safety in the body. And by using a lot of pressure and a little bit of movement, we can see a lot of people feel like they are much more firmly seated in their body. It's almost as if we are pressing their consciousness back into their body. We are showing them that there is so much more that they're not experiencing on the day-to-day that they can with just a few adjustments. So I'm getting some squeezing in here. That tends to be a favorite of the calf muscles. Maybe a bit of lifting here so that I can really get into the muscle. And some pressure. Maybe we do a little bit of rolling the ankle. Moving the foot up, down, in, out. Good. Some squeezing. And just bring that all the way up. And these treatments can go as long or as short as someone may want. We'll just pick different techniques based on their efficacy in the time allotted. And what one side wants, the other side might want a little differently. For example, you might have an injury that's a little tender on one side and doesn't want to be manipulated at all and shouldn't be. But then on the other side, that might be quite soothing. I could probably work on the thighs for the majority of a standard session. They can get really knotted up, and the sheer size of the muscle. There's so much we can do with it. So how are you feeling so far? That's good to hear. There are a lot of people that are almost sort of rendered speechless. It's just such an unexpected thing. You kind of think you're going in for one thing, but then you get all of these other things. You go in thinking that you'll get a few manipulations and you'll probably feel maybe a little sore. But generally, like, you have a lot more space in the body afterwards. But then when you start getting that urge to be present in the body, to have yourself pushed back into your body, so that essentially all you're doing is sensing. You are completely tied to your nerves and everything that's going on with them. It was pretty interesting when I experienced that for the first time. It's almost like time becomes liquid in that moment. almost like gelatin. It's a very thick sort of liquid. Supporting the leg and getting a few stretches in. Just having the full weight of one of your limbs taken care of, and that feeling of weightlessness. That is pretty nice for a lot of people. I found that this treatment helps quite a bit of clients with sleep in particular, because the treatment forces you into sensation in the present moment. And that is wonderful for sleep. So then you're not ruminating. You're not stuck in your head. Some pressure in. Let me know if there's anything in particular you want done again, or if there's something you don't vibe with. As much as I'm just kind of sensing what your body wants and needs, and just being attuned to what your muscles are doing, to what your body is doing, the little working signs, as they're called, the little sighs or the changes in breath, the sudden pliability of a limb. But ultimately, you're the one piloting the ship. So, if it's something that's just not quite working for you, that's just fine. It's just fine. Just gonna do a couple of lifts here. One of my personal favorites is having the knee bent and then having it pressed back, so that you're almost curling your legs into your chest, but someone's doing that for you. Good. Looseness here. Now I'm going to pull the tree this way. I'm going to move your arms, and then we'll work a bit into the abdomen. This is one of my favorite spots to work with. If you're very gentle, you can do almost sort of this kitten making biscuits movement around the abdomen, this sort of kneading, and a little bit of gentle pressure, where I'm mostly relying on the warmth of my hands as opposed to pressure. We can get a little bit of movement in here. And sometimes the movement is seriously just moving the skin around in these little controlled blocks. Because we don't often experience that. It's not necessary for anything. It doesn't really happen out in our day-to-day. So it almost has that sort of surprise element that draws you into the present. It's actually somewhat similar to Ericksonian indirect hypnosis, where Milton Erickson had developed some different techniques to quickly induce someone into a state of trance by using a common sort of mannerism or greeting ritual or a conversation, and doing something unexpected. So, for example, he might go to shake your hand, but instead of clasping the hand, he might reach for the wrist or tickle the fingers in the palm. Just something kind of unexpected to catch someone on their left foot, basically, or the back foot. I suppose that might be how it goes. And the chest here. The chest often likes a little bit of sustained pressure right in the heart center. Or he might pull out a chair for you, but do something strange with the chair so that you might catch yourself, for example. Or you might say something like a common sort of phrase, but a little bit different so that you're confused. Or he might mishear you and have you repeat yourself. And stretching works very well in the chest here. And with that moment of confusion, with that little bit of free fall inside the mind, a lot of people slip right into a hypnotic trance. And perhaps that's a little bit about what some of these movements work with. I'm going to pull the arm a little bit. I have one hand on the shoulder. I'm just going to do a little bit of traction here. Pull, release, pull, release. And we can get some pressure in there. Good. How are we doing? I like to do a little bit of pressure with my whole hand and the palm on the inside of the hands. And then we can work with the wrists a little bit. Inwards, outwards, up and down. Roll inwards, roll outwards. And then we can bend at the elbow here. And the shoulder can be a little difficult, but I can take the arm and go out and back in. Out. Back in. I'm walking my hands up and down the arm, coming back to do a little bit of stretching and sustained pressure in the chest. Good. Good. You can feel all those little micro muscles just melt down, melting down. I'm going to put this arm right here, and we'll get into the other side. Good, and we'll do some traction here. Squeezing into the muscle, that compression. Moving the wrist up and down, inwards and outwards. Rolling inwards, rolling outwards, and bending the elbow in and out, and allowing the arm to go all the way out and in. I'm going to pull your arm a little bit across your body here. Hold, release. Hold, release. Release. And the other arm. Hold, release. Hold, release. Good. Let's get into. I like to do that sort of kitten kneading on the chest and the tops of the shoulders. It can be a really good one there. And when everything else is relaxed down, the hips actually can benefit from that kneading as well. But it can be so hard when everything else is so tight to get them to release. Just back and forth, kneading them down so that they sink with the rest of the body into the surface underneath you. A little bit of a stretch here. Stretch and stretch, just opening everything up. Good. Right. Let's go ahead and drape up. And we can play with the shoulders a bit more here. So we've got some kneading. We can also sort of pull them away from each other a bit. Just a little bit, just with some strategic traction away from the neck. Good, and we can come in. Now the neck here. This can be a pretty delicate spot, so I like to do this one-handed so that it doesn't feel reminiscent of anything aggressive at all, but just very gently with the flats of my fingers pressing along the sides here. Just doing a bit of pressure. And more just on the sides. I might just run down the trachea just so that it gets a bit of touch. Just a little bit of that. And then we can move up to the head. So this area tends to be a lot of pressure because the head can be a little heavy. It's like a 9-10 pound bowling ball on the little stick that is your neck. And by the time we often get to this spot here, there's not necessarily a need as much to work into the head's movement unless we're addressing some neck issues. So we get a little bit of face touching in here. And we can press down on the head. We can press a little bit back on the head. We can cover the ears. We can do these little tiny finger pressures inside of the ears. Pressing in on the tragus, the antitragus, the concha, into those little folds. Actually feels really interesting. Just these tiny little pressures. On the forehead, chin, underneath the jaw, the side of the face, cupping my hand around the side. I in particular like just above the lip here. Because it's an unexpected spot. On the head. A little bit of movement. Press down. And then just a little bit of a grouping move and doing some pressure from the chest down the arms, the abdomen, the hips here with a bit of a hip opener, down the legs, and into the feet. Just some squeezing. And then back up, we can start with our sustained pressure. Pressing down with some more force. And giving it that final press into the body. Pushing all the sensations back into the body. because this is such a grounding treatment, it might take you a little bit of time to come back to the rest of the world. So I'm going to have you wiggle the fingers a bit and wiggle the toes, just trying to get you back into your body. You might roll the head from side to side, feeling the surface underneath your head. Good. You might stretch out a bit, stretch up, whatever feels most comfortable. And I want you to just kind of marinate for at least a few minutes, however long you want, just so that when you do decide to sit up or try to stand, that your equilibrium is a little less all over the place. So, I would like to thank you so much for coming here to receive this Bespoke Bodywork treatment. I hope you have a whale of a day and a good rest of your night. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, it would greatly help me out if you clicked the like button and left a comment so YouTube's algorithm registers that it was a good video. If you want to see more of my work, consider subscribing to the channel. I create primarily medical, pseudoscience / alternative medicine, and personal attention ASMR roleplays. But I've done a little bit of everything from historical to sci-fi to fantasy. If you'd like to support the channel, I offer ad-free videos, early access on videos, and exclusive content on Patreon. Or I also have a Ko-Fi link for a one-time donation or a Throne wish list